Hey, listeners, we just wanted to give you a heads up at the beginning of this episode that today's episode of Babylon 5 contains some discussion of restrictive eating, discussion of weight and body image that could be upsetting for some listeners. So, if that's going to be a tough topic for you, feel free to check out on that one.
Is there any truth to the stories?
There's the story she told us, but then the Minbari never tell you the whole truth.
I think it's stranger than any one of us can imagine.
Take a good look, people.
Big, beautiful, and crazy making.
I know what you mean.
It's rather rude, sir.
Hello, and welcome to Who Are You? A Babylon 5 watchcast by a couple of strangers who are now friends, getting to know each other over the show Babylon 5. I am Laura.
And I'm Xhafer.
And Xhafer, I get to ask you today, who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
Do you know who I am?
I love that drop.
You couldn't let it go, huh?
Like, I know that obviously us talking right now, we just pause to leave space for it, to give everyone a peek behind the curtain. We're not one of those fancy podcasts that has all of the drops sitting in front of them and the soundboard. Not us.
Yeah.
Honestly, so much of ours come after anyways that it wouldn't work that well.
True.
But in my mind, as soon as you said it, I heard the drop.
I'm so proud of that. That was like one of my first little audio editing adventures, was putting together that song. And I was so proud of myself, and I still am.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun when you put together a real good one. I haven't done a lot of them for this podcast, but I made a lot of them for Draft the Universe over the years.
Yeah.
So much so that I made an app that has all of our drops on it.
Oh, that's cute.
Just like in the Android store. But that's not who I am. I've talked about all that already. You all know all that. I ain't got to talk about that again. Go back and listen to the old episode if you want to hear more about that. Today I'm going to talk about my whiskey collection, which is something on the forefront of my mind as I am preparing to pack up my collected things and move for the first time in about 7 years.
Oh no, that's the worst. And it's all fragile.
Right. And I want to say I've got about 40 to 45 different bottles of whiskey
Oh my gosh.
on my bar right now. And that's just the whiskey. I have quite a bar built up downstairs. And so it's just going to be a nightmare to move.
Let me tell you about the saddest thing I've ever seen.
Okay.
I was at a charity event where we arranged a Stock the Bar raffle. So everyone on the board contributed a bottle of some kind of very nice liquor. We got some donations from liquor stores. It was a huge raffle of a whole bar setup, right? The guy who won it at the end of the night, we all had a great time. He was a bit inebriated. He tried to pack this whole thing up in one box and take it down to his car, and he dropped it.
Oh,
The saddest thing I've ever seen, like hundreds of dollars.
yeah.
So be careful.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Oh, I couldn't begin to guess how much my bar is worth. And part of that is in Michigan, bourbon prices are insane because they're not state regulated. There's a minimum, but there's no maximum. And so I have a ton of bottles of whiskey that I will go down to Ohio to visit some of my friends down there, buy for $30 that I have seen. This is not an exaggeration, for $140 a bottle up here.
Huh.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Someone bought it for that price, or someone thinks someone will buy it for that price eventually.
Okay. Weird.
Yep. I mean, when you're not some of it is stuff that's very hard to get in the state. That's very easy to get in Ohio. So I got to imagine you just drive down, fill up, buy 6 bottles, drive back up and resell it. Whether or not that's legal, I'm not commenting on because I don't own a liquor store that does this.
Yeah.
But I assume that's what happens because I don't think many people get these bottles in through normal distributor means.
Okay.
It's just stuff that doesn't make it here that often, which is something that supports that price.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah, it's a ton. It kind of started on a lark. I've always like had a bit of a like, oh, a nice whiskey kind of a thing. And then my friend Brad from college moved in during his internship in town, and he had started to pick up a taste for it too when he was at grad school getting his MBA. And so that kind of spiraled and we kind of fed off of each other, and both of us have extensive whiskey collections at this point. And then the other part of it was during the pandemic at my real job where I work, we had a history of doing happy hours where, we'd get a keg and stuff and do all these things. We needed someone who was able to operate and clean all the kegging equipment. And as I had mentioned before, I apprenticed at a brewery in college.
Mhm.
So I kind of became one of the beer guys at work. And then that led to, during the pandemic and the shutdown, me doing these cocktail hours where I would teach people where I work. I'd record a video of myself making fancy cocktails, and then we'd put it up and we'd put it before like a work digital trivia night or whatever we were doing.
Yeah.
So then work started buying me booze as well to film these happy hours with.
That's the dream.
Isn't it though? Um, putting in expense reports for mezcal. It's like, oh, I needed that $70 bottle of mezcal for these margaritas. Trust me, it makes
Just
a
trust
difference.
me. Yeah.
That was literally my Tuesday. Anyways, so yeah, it's quite an extensive collection, mostly bourbons. I have a couple of Irish whiskeys. I have exactly one Scotch, Aberlour, for the
Okay.
person who asked me eventually. Yeah, and it's just something that I've kind of done. I buy a nice bottle on occasions to commemorate them now.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like the day my best friend got married, I officiated his wedding, and I stopped and picked up a nice bottle of whiskey on the way to the ceremony.
Aw.
And that's just sitting on my bar for when he comes over.
Aw. That's real
Um,
nice.
Yeah, stuff like that. I have a disproportionate amount of liquor compared to how much I drink it.
Yeah,
for
so do we,
sure.
really.
And I got to get rid of some of it before I move.
Yeah, now's the time to like give some gifts.
Yeah, I'm hosting a get together in a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
a last hurrah before I move.
Throw a
And
nice
I'm hoping
rager.
I'm hoping a lot of people don't show up with nice whiskey. If you're a listener and you're going to this occasion, if you bring a nice bottle of whiskey, I won't be upset. And Ben's going to be the one who shows up. It was all like, I
Yeah.
heard I was drinking all your whiskey. I'm making the face, Ben. You know what one. I don't have to tell you.
Well, someday you'll have to tell me what the favorite is.
My favorite whiskey? I don't have a favorite. Pick a favorite child. That is the worst possible answer to that question. So my favorite bottle that's currently on my bar, right,
Mhm.
is I have a barrel bourbon that was aged in ice wine barrels from a liquor store in Ann Arbor. It was like a store pick. And I was there when they brought it out. I got bottle number 1. And I don't know,
Yeah.
it's just like, it's a cool little bottle. And then also it's just delicious. So that's probably my favorite currently. But I tend to not just buy a normal bottle. I tend to get store picks or limiteds or special editions
Mhm.
and stuff. So when I have it, I will only ever have this one bottle of it. And I know this. Like I can get other stuff that might be close, but there's always a difference.
Mhm.
So it's very uh what's the word? It's a Japanese concept. Mono no aware, the fleeting quality of life.
Okay.
That
I was
that's
like,
how I feel about my bourbon. The fact that this bottle is limited
mhm.
makes it more worthwhile to me. It makes it more special. It makes me savor it. Makes me be more careful and appreciate it.
You live in the bourbon moment.
I do live in the bourbon moment.
Where's my bourbon?
Yeah. So we got
Okay.
season 2, episode 4, A Distant Star. A little bit of stuff before. This is a DC Fontana episode.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yep.
I was
This
going to say
is
we open on a man who looks very much like he would enjoy a bourbon.
yes. Captain Maynard does look like he would enjoy a bourbon. This, I believe, is the first in a string of non-JMS episodes.
Okay.
It's either this one or we get one JMS and then we get like 4 that aren't.
Okay, I'll be looking forward. I'll be paying attention now.
But after we get through this kind of non-JMS hump, which I want to say ends around episode 7 or 8 without a list in front of me,
Mhm.
we've got like one more, and then it's all JMS until season 5.
Wow. It's a lot of
So,
work.
yep. So yeah, we open on Captain Maynard of the Earth Alliance ship Cortez.
He's very
Uh,
cool. He's got a beard. He's got his boots on his desk. He's sending a very particular message to Captain Sheridan.
Yeah, the swamp rat.
Back on Babylon 5 and CNC, Ivanova, who is still using a cane, I might point
Mhm.
out. So we know this was filmed very close to the incident. She hands over the received and apparently rude message to Sheridan.
Mhm.
And can we just agree that Stinky is the nickname that was a placeholder that was meant to be replaced with Control C later, but then somebody forgot to do that? Because I was like, Stinky? Really? That's pretty lame.
Yeah. So after that, we go to theme. The audio for the theme has been remixed. Did you notice?
So we noticed it wasn't this episode. I meant to say it in the last episode that the first 2 episodes in theme, Delenn has
Mhm.
her old face.
Yes.
And then in Geometry of Shadows, she has new face.
She has her new face. And Ivanova gets her promotion in the credits in this one.
Oh, okay. So that's how we had time to remix things, is like we
Yep.
had to do it anyway.
Yep. She's listed as commander instead of lieutenant in these opening credits.
Okay.
And Sheridan's dialogue is also re-recorded.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it
I'm
punches
gonna
a bit
have to.
better.
I'm gonna go listen just to see if I can hear the diff
You'll
in
notice.
those 2.
When I read it before I listened, and I immediately knew.
Okay.
It's a bit more bassy. It swells a bit better.
Okay.
I
I'm
think it
glad
is
you pointed that out.
a better version of the season 2 theme, which was already one of my favorites. So
It's a good theme.
it's a good
It's a
theme.
good theme.
We come back on a shot of the Explorer ship alongside Babylon 5, giving the feel that this is almost a miniature version of the station itself. They're even kind
Yeah.
of a similar geometry.
Yeah. And this, there might be a little bit of forced perspective here, but it looks like
Mhm.
this ship is almost as big as the station, like almost as long.
Yeah, it's a huge ship.
Mhm.
Regardless of the forced perspective, you can tell it's very large ship.
Right. And at one point there's a Star Fury that flies by, so you get a little bit of scale, because we kind of have an
Mhm.
idea now about how big is the Star Fury, and it flies
Mhm.
past.
I mean, it makes sense that it would be large. It's been, it's years in between resupplies. So that means it has to grow all of its own food.
Yeah, I don't, maybe it's not Ivanova that says it, but in the discussion with Sheridan and Ivanova, somebody says something about 5 years. We think this ship has been out
Mhm.
for about 5 years.
John and Jack catch up walking around when they run into Delenn.
Mhm.
Sheridan makes an introduction and explain that she's changed, but he isn't sure he's been told the whole story yet.
Mhm.
So he's still kind of out of the loop about what's happening. Jack comments this posting in particular seems out of place for his old friend,
Mhm.
which is a reoccurring theme. It's something that Sheridan will focus on throughout the course of the episode.
You might even say fixate.
Mhm. We cut to Medbay, where Franklin is giving Garibaldi some shit about his diet.
No. Food plan.
Yeah.
Why
Dr.
haven't
Franklin.
we figured this out yet?
Yeah.
Medically? Like, why is this a thing still?
Yeah. Dr. Franklin really needs to listen to some Maintenance Phase. Maintenance Phase is one of my favorite podcasts. I don't know if I've mentioned that yet.
You haven't. I'm not familiar with this podcast.
So Maintenance Phase is hosted by Aubrey Gordon and Michael Hobbs, and they kind of tear apart some of the ideas that we have about health and some of these particularly dangerous ideas that we grew up with, because they're about our age.
Mhm.
So some of this 90s stuff, they would just kind of tear apart. Franklin is basically prescribing that Garibaldi needs to eat better.
Yeah.
Aaron was cracking up because he prints out 2 sheets of paper. So we haven't escaped printing, I guess,
Yeah.
to tell Garibaldi what he can and he can't eat. And then he vows to come for the rest of the senior staff's joy as well.
Yep. I am the weird one who takes paper notes still.
I do like paper notes. I've been lately keeping them on my Google Drive just because it's easier for me to not lose them.
Mhm.
But I love a paper note.
I do notebooks.
Yeah.
I've got notebooks going back like 6 or 7 years at this point. It's like I
Yeah.
just work my way through one. I annotate the day and the subject of every page so I know when I took it,
Mhm.
and I can just go back from there.
I'm gonna admit something really heinous now too.
Yeah.
Sometimes I print out an email so I can make handwritten notes on the email about like, if there's like next things that I need to do and I
Mhm.
need to like map it out in my mind, I will print out the email and then I will take, like create my map in handwriting on that printed email. So
I will not begrudge anyone a process to get through late stage capitalism that works for them.
thank you.
Just full stop, whatever it is that gets you through the day, do it.
Mhm.
If it's not hurting anybody, paper is a renewable resource. It's one of
That's
the
true.
few.
That's
So,
true. I used to give myself a lot of crap about it, especially if it's something really important and I need to make sure I get it done like by the end of the week. Sometimes it's
mhm.
like having paper on my desk is going to trigger me more to do it than say a calendar reminder that I can just hit snooze, 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 snooze.
Yeah. I leave emails unread for things that I need to do.
Mm,
If it needs a response, I reply to it immediately. But if it's something I actually have to do, I leave it unread in its
mm.
appropriate folder because I'm one of those people who has a giant hierarchy of rules and folders in their Outlook.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I should try that.
But I do have 11 post-it notes on my monitors right now.
I love the post-it note on the monitor.
Yeah. None of them are passwords before anyone gives me crap. Not a
Yeah.
one.
You're not Londo.
No.
So Sheridan recaps the first 3 episodes of the season for Maynard in his quarters.
Mhm.
And again, Maynard kind of gives him some shit and remarks that it's funny that the president chose someone that the Minbari hated for this job. And then he keeps
Mhm.
needling at Sinclair, asking if he's happy, insinuating that he's been tied to a desk, which is just rude.
We cut to Garibaldi and Sheridan West Winging, and we find out Sinclair was way more micromanaging than we thought. Because
Yeah,
he's
you think
like,
so?
Garibaldi's giving him like, oh, there's this petty crime theft thing, it was a ring and all this stuff, and he's giving all these details, and Sheridan's like, I don't care, handle it. That's your job. And he's just like, Sinclair like to know this stuff. And it's just like, you were being micromanaged, bro.
Is he micromanaging or does he just love a good gossip? I think
Fair.
Sinclair just liked the tea.
Or is Sheridan just absentee boss?
Mm, all
Could be
very
either.
valid readings. We can read this in all these ways.
Yep. We cut to the bar with a scene of trying to make us care about Warren Kiefer. When he brings up a headline that we saw in season 1, does stuff live in hyperspace? That was on one of the newspapers from season 1.
Oh yeah. I
Uh,
just I just love Universe Today. I think it's a great call
yeah,
out to the 90s and
yeah,
everything.
USA
And
Today. Yeah, it's great.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
he says something maybe not living, but stranger than we can imagine lives in hyperspace.
Yep. Yep. Ooh.
Sheridan follows up, and Maynard shares a story of seeing a ship of shadows.
Yeah, something
Dun
black
dun
against space.
dun.
It blotted out the stars. Sheridan remarks that Maynard is the second person in a month to tell him something strange is happening on the rim.
Mhm.
So, reminding us that that was Jakar early in, I believe that was the second episode, but earlier in the season.
Yeah.
So
They just want to know what's
just,
going on the rim. Do you know what's going on the rim? What's going on
yeah,
the rim? So
anything
something's going
cool?
on the rim. You don't got to tell us. You don't got to tell us. But if you know, you could tell us though, right? Like, I think it'd be fun if you did it. Just, stuff on the rim, what's going on, just live there, like, just one, no, just one, no, did you know? Because we were there, Zod and whatever, it's cool. It's cool. I'm going to drop it. Don't worry about it.
So we have a kind of an idea about where we're at in time here too, because we
Yeah.
know that had to be about early January when he had the conversation with Jakar.
Mm-hmm.
So we're probably in about February, maybe early
Mm-hmm.
March right now at the latest. So we're clipping through time here.
Yeah.
In an unnamed freight area, Garibaldi is arranging to receive some contraband.
Garibaldi is smuggling butter to the station.
This is a delight. I think that Jerry Doyle's co-actor was just spot on right here.
He was great.
I love it.
Garibaldi smuggling butter to the station, making the ghost of Julia Child smile.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
And Sheridan gets a diet plan.
Yeah. So then Franklin has come for Sheridan now, and he says that he needs to lose 10 pounds, to which I say, fuck right off, good sir.
Right.
He looks
After-
amazing.
He does. 10 pounds. That's just a camera.
Yeah. Get with it, Franklin. Jeez.
Yeah.
Sheridan is also not impressed.
After this, Delenn deals with some racist bullshit and quotes, let me check my notes, herself from last season. Understanding is not required, only obedience.
I don't know if that's a great look for a society.
Look, it was rude to Lanier, but you were his boss. So I get it. To the people you represent, fuck off, Delenn.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
yeah.
a senator saying this to a constituent?
Yeah, not a good look. And, to be fair, if you want to like spin this to think about it a different way, if we went out into space,
Mhm.
Humans finally go out into space, like real space.
Did it. Yay.
And we met a race of like lizard people or something. I'm trying to think of something that's not like us. Tentacle people. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then one of my friends puts themselves into a giant cocoon and comes out with scales or tentacles or something. I'm going to have questions. I'm going to have a few questions. And I think that's natural. I think that's okay.
Hey, where'd you get those tentacles from? You gotta tell me. I'm just trying to know.
Are you still a human being? I mean,
I can't do it again.
I did twice.
Can't do it twice like that. No. I only have so much of that voice. I gotta save it.
There's a 1 per episode quota. We've already filled it. So, yeah, she tells him, I'm more one of us than ever, which is creepy and weird and vague and not an explanation.
Holty.
So he calmly states that they will be sending a representative to the Grey Council, and she appears to accept.
Yeah, whatever. Cool.
Fine.
It's hi, Delenn. Get the name straight, bitch. She doesn't
Is
care.
it still though? I mean, okay. So back in Medbay, it's Ivanova's turn for getting harangued by Dr. Knows Best. And he says that her problem is she's not eating enough of the right things, which are causing some deficiencies, which is what vitamin supplements are for, my dude. Like,
yeah. She does have a banger of a joke here, though.
Yeah.
All my life I've fought imperialism. Now I am the expanding Russian frontier.
But, sir, I do never, ever, 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 ever want my medical professional to tell me I have a pleasing figure. Knock that off,
Right.
Dr.
Creepy
Franklin.
shit.
I don't
Sci-fi
care.
doctors in the 90s. Why are you all horny on Maine? Every last one of you. Please stop.
Yeah. Good.
Put down the
good point.
candle. Do not light the candle.
At least it's gender neutral? Question mark. Anyway,
Maynard departs on the Cortez after they finish their resupply. Ivanova is reporting more diplomatic minutia to Sheridan, who again is like, this is your problem.
Yeah.
What a terrible boss.
Yeah, she calls him out though. She calls him out
Yeah.
about this and asks him if he needs to do some therapy about it, which totally. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, it is one thing to micromanage. It is another to give your employees grief when they come to you for help.
Yeah.
This is not like, as someone in a leadership position, this really, I was very upset. I didn't like this for the same reason that I don't like The Office.
Oh,
And that's,
yeah.
I see Michael Scott as someone's actual boss, and I get visibly angry that this person was trusted in a position of leadership because he shouldn't be.
Yeah. So basically it boils down to he feels like his life is, was more exciting, had more meaning when he was captaining in space. And he's afraid that his career's been sidelined. And Ivanova basically like slaps him a little bit and reminds him that, Babylon 5 requires just as much skill. There are just as many important things to be done as out in space. He's been trusted with a lot. So by the end of the scene, he sort of acknowledges and gets back on the horse.
Yep. There was a bit about apes writing off evolution if they knew politicians would exist. That was good. We cut
Mm.
to a bridge explosion without shaky cam.
Yeah, maybe that's why it seems so weird. Did you feel like the scene was weird?
I wrote honestly jarring as my notes on this scene.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I have some critiques about Russ Tamblin's portrayal of Captain Maynard from here on out.
Yeah. And the Cortez is lost in hyperspace.
Yeah, God. We're lost in hyperspace. We're not addressing this fire in the background.
Yeah.
Like people are just running past the big flames. We find out that there was something that caused a reactor spike, knocked everything offline. Tracking system was knocked out, meaning that the lock-on signal to the jump gate was lost and we're adrift.
Meanwhile, at Zocalo, our senior staff minus Franklin are sat before their meals. We have a salad and a roll, and a plate of fettuccine Garibaldi.
Oh, I thought
And
that the other plate, the middle plate, I thought it was a salad and a meatloaf. That's what it looked like to me. But
that makes more sense given how eager Sheridan is to grab it. I just thought he was really a bread guy.
I thought it was a meatloaf, but I could be wrong. Yeah. So they're all angry about their food plans. I just want to say that one of the things that Franklin criticized Ivanova's, deficiencies was iron. And I'm pretty sure that that spinach salad had a lot of iron in it. Cursory Google search says that spinach is a good source of iron. So I'm not sure about Garibaldi or fettuccine Garibaldi. Is that what we're calling it? Or Garibaldi
Yeah.
Alfredo?
Well, his middle name is Alfredo, so
Yeah.
fettuccine Garibaldi, I think, rolls off the tongue
Yeah,
nicely.
it does. It does. It's good. So they all blame Garibaldi for this. They switch their meals around until Franklin sneaks up behind them and forces the quick switch back. So I think it's a good humor moment for
Yeah.
the episode.
It's
And
some Three Stooges shit, and I'm here for it.
yeah, I'm here for some Three Stooges. And we haven't really gotten the four of these characters together at once much. I don't know. I think them having dinner together is a good, like a working dinner. Like we're just doing a quick thing. This isn't the fancy, like when Sinclair took Ivanov and Garibaldi out for his engagement dinner or whatever.
Yeah.
This is like, we're
in the middle of some shit. We're going to eat real quick so that we all know that we ate and then move on with the day.
Mhm.
Been
Yeah.
there. The Cortez sends a mayday from hyperspace that Babylon 5 picks up, and Ivanova gives us the stakes. No ship in hyperspace has ever been rescued.
Yeah. Yikes.
Sheridan finds these stakes to sound particularly good at the moment. That's a joke about his diet plan. Meanwhile, Delenn lies and shits on Garibaldi's plans.
Oh, this was very funny. It's like she's getting examined by Franklin. She doesn't really want to be. And so she just throws some shade over at Garibaldi and says, why don't you go look into these Banya Kauda Black Ops?
Yeah, right. Sheridan briefs the pilots with the plan. There is some doubt from them. They don't know if this is possible. If you don't know where the ship is, how do you find it? It's like,
Yeah.
that's kind of the point, dumbass.
Well,
I get asked these questions in IT a lot where I'm all like, hey, I need you to find the server that's causing the problem. And someone whose job is to fix that will be all like, what server's causing the problem? And I'm all like, no. That's what we need you to find out. That's what I need you to do. I need you to find out and then fix it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
just
so
tell me which one is the problem.
Right? Just tell me which one's the problem. I'll take care of it. It's like, no, that's the easy part. I know that's the easy part. I need you to find the problem.
Sheridan is proposing that we're going to make this chain of lifeboats reaching out to look for the Cortez. And I love this idea. I love the explanation. It's a very sci-fi thing that we're doing right now.
Yeah.
But I don't know, to me, like, if you can move any direction on any plane in space, and presumably you can do that in hyperspace as well.
Yeah.
Isn't this a bigger long shot than on the ocean where you are just moving in one plane? Yeah.
For sure. Well, you'd be on the ocean, you'd be moving in two planes. You'd have your north, south, and your east, west.
Okay, sure.
In space,
but now
you
we've
add
got
the Z.
Yeah.
The up, down. But theoretically, the Cortez had a course plotted that
Yeah. So
theoretically Babylon 5 would be aware of. So they can probably go, okay, well, she was heading northeast and
yeah.
kind of only with the Z axis figured in there as well. And kind of, that was not a logical leap for me. That was just like, oh, well, of course they knew where the ship was going. They've got space GPS.
Yeah, sure. That's a
If,
good way to write
if
it
you
up.
don't have space GPS, why? Also, that's the whole point of how hyperspace works is you have to go from a very specific point to a very specific point.
Hmm.
And if
And we've
you,
just lost sight of our very specific point.
so yeah, you kind of just also like if I were to do this plan, right? You've got your ships, your Star Furies, they're like 1,000 meters away, right? So you put them on 1,000 meter hypotenuse, not a straight line, and you rotate it, right? So you've got a
Okay.
700 foot and you use that or a 600 foot because the 500 foot range in the middle, because you don't want to dead zone out the center as you go. So, I mean, you might fly through the center and then expand and then go and do the
Hmm.
whole thing, but you could slowly expand that out to the farthest points to cover more and more space.
Okay. Okay. You've mathed me there.
Back in CNC, we get some backstory, Tiem Tip Tiem, as the ships keep up with their search when a
Hmm.
crab ship shows up, kills a pilot, and then strands Kiefer in an attempt to make us care about him.
Yeah. This is wild.
Yeah, he goes full self-sacrifice. His engines are toasted, he's rotating, and he knows the direction to head, but he can't get there. So he starts shooting the direction towards the other ships for the Cortez to pick up the signal.
Now, I know we've heard that people sometimes complain, specifically physicists. Physicists
Mhm.
like to get the physics right, but I think this is another time where Babylon 5 gets physics a little bit better than other space shows. Because can you imagine seeing a shuttle like doing this, a Star Trek shuttle doing the
Yeah,
rotate bit and
you
shooting?
can't.
Yeah, like the Star Fury is at least designed in this way that makes that sort of sense for
Yeah.
physics. So I think it looks cool.
You're really gonna like Battlestar Galactica when we get to it.
Yay.
For a very similar reason.
Okay.
The Cortez comes through the jump gate and Sheridan gets the bad news about what's his name? I mean Kiefer. Um,
Well, I think Kiefer's commander gets a bigger like shaft in this whole episode
yeah,
because this is his one and only episode just so he can die.
he gets axed by some shadows.
Yeah, he gets
Um,
exploded in hyperspace where no one can hear you scream.
so I have a bit about the ship being named the Cortez from JMS that there's not really a good place to put in this episode.
Well, let's just do it
So,
here.
so while we're mourning the loss of Warren Kiefer and his
Mhm.
self-sacrifice, let's talk about the Cortez because someone called JMS out for naming a ship the Cortez back in 1994,
Wow.
right? And he had a very good answer.
Okay, what is it? Hit me.
So he's like, should a ship have been named the Cortez, considering what effect his arrival had on the Native Americans? JMS
Mhm.
goes, if Cortez had not landed in northern Mexico, do you think it would have remained undiscovered until now? Fact one, somebody was bound to discover the Americas. Fact two, any sufficiently advanced civilization or culture will inevitably attempt to exploit any civilization or culture not sufficiently advanced to fight back on a level playing field.
Okay.
Blaming explorers for exploring has always seemed kind of silly to me. Do people really think that if Columbus hadn't landed here, it'd be 1994 and we wouldn't know the world was round and this continent was here? It doesn't matter who discovered it, the results would have been the same. Someone had to discover it sooner or later.
It's the Londo idea. Like in the last episode, the techno mage says, I could kill you, but someone would take your place.
Exactly. You still did great evil, but I can't stop this evil from happening. If it were not you, then someone else.
It's the inevitability of Londo. Mm.
There's an episode title.
Wow. Man. That's kind of bleak.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just kind of bleak.
It's bleak, but it's also like very aware for 30 years ago,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
long before Columbus Day was renamed anywhere.
It hasn't been in Oklahoma yet, which is weird because we're kind of
One
like all Native Americans here.
day. Oh, well, maybe that's why.
Uh,
The fucking
anyway, let's lighten it up by going back to Garibaldi Garibaldi's picking up his package and he gets discovered by the buzzkill.
Yeah, Franklin catches Garibaldi smuggling butter, and Garibaldi tells him the story of his dad, how he makes this dish every year. And Franklin's all like, okay, well, you better smuggle another batch of ingredients in to make dinner for two.
It's the annual Banya Cauda celebration. Delenn visits with Sheridan in the garden and offers her condolences for the lost pilots. Delenn remarks that they were there in the right place and saved lives, just as Sheridan was in the right place to put them there. She reassures us of the wisdom of the universe and that she too has seen Carl Sagan speak. Star stuff.
Star stuff. Kiefer, while drifting, sees that crab ship again, so he follows it out of hyperspace. Somehow.
Yeah.
Wouldn't this imply the shadow ship is at B5?
Right. That because he said that I followed the way it came. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, then if that got you back to Babylon 5, then
This giant scary ship that just indiscriminately is killing things is at the station, and you just don't mention it till you're at the bar later.
yeah.
What?
Oh boy.
I followed that foreign fighter pilot, that unidentified ship home. That it was a big deal. Not who cares that it was hovering over DC? Whatever. It's just like how?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. So I've been calling that place the jazz bar in my notes.
Okay.
Apparently it's what'd she say, the officers club.
Yeah.
So all the 90s officers love their smooth jazz. Cool. Yeah, this is the spot where we cut in the girl from Ipanema.
I was thinking Careless Whisper.
Okay. And we'll find some good. Don't worry about it.
We get a triumphant return to commercial, and when we come back, we're at Space Bar, where they're talking about the pilot that the Shadows killed. They give him a toast. They discuss the ship, and Kiefer wants to know more. Spoilers. No, you don't.
Yeah. I do like
Maybe calm down on that a little bit.
Kiefer's not like a superstar character, but I do like his
He's
whole
the worst character on Babylon 5.
Yeah, okay.
The worst. The worst reoccurring character. The worst.
Oh, you couldn't even wait for the season wrap up, huh?
He is
worst reoccurring character declared now.
If it's the whole show, it's not even just the season. He's miserable. He's terrible. I don't like the character of Warren Kiefer. Change my mind. We cut to Garibaldi's quarters after this, where he and Franklin are drinking hot garlic butter and anchovies.
Yeah. I do know we've talked about this off pod. We do both want to try this. It just couldn't happen for this episode.
Yeah, I found the recipe. If anyone was curious, the one used was from Jeff Smith's The Frugal Gourmet. It is a half cup of olive oil, 1 stick of butter, 5 cloves of finely chopped garlic, 6 anchovy fillets mashed, and black pepper. Heat oil and butter together in the top of a double boiler. In a small skillet, cook the garlic and a bit of the oil until soft. Add the anchovies, cook until the fish turns into a paste, about 5 minutes. Mix this paste together with the hot oil and butter. Transfer to a fondue pot to keep warm on the table as it will congeal as it cools. And then you just dip bread in it.
Yeah. I think I saw you could do veggies too, but they're clearly doing bread in this episode. But
gotta make the most of it. It's cheat day.
It's apparently delicious. So according to these two characters.
I'm sure. It's pure fat. It's fat and garlic. It's gotta be delicious.
Yeah. We don't find out what dessert is, and that's a damn shame.
It's gotta be tiramisu. Like, it's gotta be.
You think?
Oh,
in my head,
Garibaldi's totally a tiramisu guy.
Okay. I was picturing like cheesecake, but okay.
Yeah, it might be cheesecake. I could see that too. Man, cheesecake sounds good.
What you're doing after this.
Meanwhile, Ivanova checks in on Sheridan, who is doing paperwork. We get quiet contemplation about the universe to close the episode.
And I think you can tell in this season or in this ending that he's a little bit charmed by Ambassador Delenn.
Yeah, it's a little
He's
bit
got the
there.
little bit charmed face.
Starting a little thing.
Mm.
Thinking about that Delenn.
Mm.
Star stuff.
Mm.
Little swoon. Just not a big swoon, just a little swoon. Just a little swoon from Sheridan. Just a little swoon. But a swoon.
Okay, so tell me, how do you feel about this episode?
2 out of 5.
Whoa, you gave it a big haircut. Tell me what makes you feel 2 out of 5.
We get some cheap laughs. Garibaldi committing crimes for personal gain. A boring main plot, and Kiefer shoved down our throats. Pass.
See, the things that gave me like little downvotes in this episode was Russ Hamblin's acting for me took a bad turn at when we go adrift in hyperspace. And I didn't think anything he did was really captainly. And I looked him up just because I'm doing that right now with guest stars. And his like biggest credit was West Side Story back in the 60s. He was something in West Side Story. But he's again that kind of like older Hollywood actor. So that to me is maybe where his little like overacting and hamminess comes from. Because he's the captain and this is a disaster. And he's like, oh my God, what's going on? Like jazz hands is how I feel about it. And it's just not captain to me. So that took me out of it quite a bit.
Yeah, I would have preferred him and Sheridan snap fighting. That would have made a more interesting episode.
Dance fight. Yeah. I did love the stuff about hyperspace. I don't know, the look of hyperspace, the ideas that we learn more about hyperspace, all very good. But yeah, it did take me out of it a few times. So it's interesting that you told us up front that this was not a JMS episode. I would give this one a 3. I didn't quite discount it as much as you did, but still it falls off from the previous episode for me.
For sure. All right. Next up, we have season 2, episode 5, The Long Dark. An old ship arrives from Earth with 2 bodies. 2 humans aboard B5 experience horrifying visions, which Dr. Franklin tries to interpret.
Dun, dun, dun. I think I vaguely remember this one.
I don't.
See. Once we get into it, we'll see if I remembered or not. Okay. Well, thank you to Jeremy Siegel for our theme music. Thank you to Angry Duck Time Machine on Instagram for our podcast artwork.
And feel free to email us with any questions or comments or anything you want to say for our mailbag segment at whoareyoub5@gmail.com. And then get on the Discord. We've got a Discord now. We're talking episode spoilers. We're having a lot of fun on there. Lots of memes. It's been a blast. You can get the link either by emailing us and asking it for us if you need to, or also it is on our Facebook About Us section now.
Yeah. And I'll clarify, there is Spoiler Town. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you don't have to be in Spoiler Town. You don't have to follow that hashtag. So you can also just come for the cool hangs.
Yeah, we do have a channel specifically dedicated to being current with the pod. So you can have conversations about the show without having to worry about spoilers there.
And of course, we got all the good memes, the freshest memes.
The freshest memes. See you next week, Internet.
Bye.